Now in the U.S., the mother of a black teenager fatally shot by the police in Cleveland has called for the prosecution of the officers involved in the incident. Samaria Rice said that she wants the police officers to be held accountable and convicted. Rice has already filed a wrongful death lawsuit. She also criticized the police for how they treated her when she was trying to reach for her fatally injured son.
As I was trying to get through to my son, the police told me to calm down or they will put me in the back of the police car. And they made me sit in the front of the ambulance truck like I was a passenger.
Now, Rice's 12-year-old son, Tamir, was shot dead on a playground on November the 22nd while holding a toy gun. Tamir's killing was the latest in a string of incidents which triggered outrage over police brutality and racism. It followed the police killings of two unarmed African Americans, Michael Brown in Missouri and Eric Garner in New York. Both cases, violent unrest broke out after grand juries decided not to press charges against the police officers involved in the incidents. On the line with us is Lawrence Ham. He's the chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, and he joins us from New Jersey. Many thanks for joining us here on PressTV, sir. Now, first of all, looking at the plea being made by Samaria Rice, one has to question that after the way the grand juries decided to vote on the case of Michael Brown as well as Eric Garner, can Americans, specifically African Americans, put their trust in a judicial system that is so inherently against them?
Well, I think it would be fair to say that most African Americans who have some awareness and have had some dealings with the criminal justice system do have a mistrust and have historically had a mistrust of the criminal justice system. Unfortunately, it's the only system we have at the moment, but it is clear from the verdicts in the case of Eric Garner and the verdict in the case of Michael Brown that this system, particularly the grand jury system, is broken. And this is not simply the case in those recent examples. Grand juries, historically, not only do they have a bad record, they practically have no record of convicting, or that is, of charging police in cases where the police have been accused of police brutality. It hardly ever happens. And over again, going back to the civil rights days, to the civil rights movement, African Americans have always had to appeal to the federal government and the federal court system to have their issues redressed. We had a case like this in New Jersey, the case of Earl Faison, who, according to the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, died in a stairwell of torture. In that case, the county prosecutors didn't even convene a grand jury. And it was because of the uprising of the family and the community and our organization and other organizations behind the family. Because of that uprising, the federal government did get involved, did bring charges against these officers, did prosecute them, and the officers were found guilty. But even that is a rare occasion in itself.
Indeed. So, Mr. Ham, U.S. President Barack Obama also touched on this issue, and he did admit that racism is a deep-rooted issue within the U.S. society. However, he said the situation today is very different from the civil rights movement that we saw. Do you agree?
Well, there is a fundamental difference. Prior to 1964, when the Civil Rights Act was passed, and prior to 1965, when the Voting Rights Act was passed, we had legal apartheid in America. Jim Crow, as it was called, was a system of racial apartheid that was in fact held in place by a system of laws that existed from the municipal level all the way through the state level. This was a situation where the law worked to segregate the races, and more than that, to keep black people in a subordinate position and the victims of racial inequality. That is the fundamental difference. The great success of the civil rights movement was the abolition of legal apartheid. But what we have now is racial apartheid, in fact. Even though the laws are no longer in place, America is, in fact, a more racially segregated country today in 2014 than it was in 1968 when Dr. Martin Luther King was still alive. And this system of racial division in America is, in fact, in part held in place by the criminal justice system.
Okay, let's leave it there for now. That was Chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, Lawrence Ham, joining us on the line from New Jersey. Thank you very much for your comments here on Press TV, sir.